Hey, everybody. My name is Jeanette, as you know. This is Omar, and today we have Abby Rathel joining us. She is my student and also a newfound friend. And she is studying criminology as well as the criminal justice system at the University of Alabama. And she's also an advocate. And it's kind of a interesting dichotomy. So we just wanted to have her on to discuss and see what it's all about. So without further ado, Omar.
Bless our family. How is everyone doing? I hope everyone is doing well. I would be remiss to not mention that we're in the middle of Black History Month. I call it our story. So salute to all the ancestors, to everyone that past and present that helps to move the struggle forward. It's not just about Black people, but anyone that benefits from the struggle of oppressed people should pay attention to this month and really think about the sacrifices of people like Mumia Abdul Jamal, Angela Davis, and so on. George Jackson, people known and unknown who have fought to give us the rights that we have, especially behind bars, and to bring the narrative, the correct narrative, forward to the public. So, thank you all for your support this far, and I'm very excited about this show.
Yeah.
Abby, the question that I have for you is a question I was thinking about maybe 2 days ago, and it came to me like Jeanette was saying how some people might find the two different paths that you're engaged in, far as being an advocate and in your studies, your career path. So it hit me like, wow, some people might find that kind of like contradictory or whatever, or kind of like, whoa, what's going on there? So my first question would be, what inspired you to choose your career path?
Well, overall, I think anybody in criminal justice, you have to have a passion to help others and you have to want to make a difference. Um, Also, I have two loved ones who are incarcerated, which it impacted me to study about crime in general
Mm,
and how what makes people commit crime. That was overall my question. So I think that's really what inspired me is, just having compassion for other people and wanting to help society in general.
That's interesting. Like of all the questions you could have asked yourself, you know what I mean? Having two loved ones incarcerated, that was the one that you thought of because there's a lot of things that people could ask themselves when they're in that situation. So I think that's pretty cool. I respect that.
Yeah, it's
Omar?
actually very interesting.
I'm sure it is. I mean, I've seen some shows on it, but that's about it. It looks like a cool job.
Yes.
yeah, thank you
Omar?
for that response. I want to add before Jeanette goes into her question, that people like you are the future. So often when I was incarcerated and you get to work, you reach out, you talk to a lot of these advocates and people who've been in it for 20, 30 years, or who have all the political donations to worry about, the different bonds and obligations to worry about. They're kind of watered down and controlled, and they don't have a personal um, stake often in it, far as like it seems that they got into it for the good reasons, whatever it was personally, and then over time it seems like they just got weighed down with politics, with various different things that stop them from really caring. So I'm excited about this show because people like you are really the future, and thank you for your work, and thank you for not just throwing your hands up and saying, hey, this is too heavy. They already got my people incarcerated. I don't want to deal with it. Thank you for digging in, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Very
Um, Overall, I just love all people, and I'm here for the greater good of society. I don't, you know, I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it for anything. I just love to help. And I think that's what drove me to criminal justice is because I've seen the struggle. I've seen it from both sides. Um, having a brother that's incarcerated and an uncle, you know, I've seen things that they've been through, and it impacted me in good ways, bad ways. So hopefully you'll get a lot out of this, just by, getting to interview me, basically.
Yeah. We definitely need more people like you in the world that just care and aren't in it for the money. And, I do understand what you're saying, Omar. Like, people start off, in the beginning with the best intentions, but then pressure builds and things get bigger and bigger. And, eventually they turn to the almighty dollar as opposed to what they, began fighting for. So, but I know Abby and I know her heart and I know that she wouldn't do that. So she's in it to win it. And she's going to change the world, girl. Even if it's in the smallest way, it doesn't matter. You just, some way you will change the world, I believe. My question is, what are the responsibilities of a criminologist exactly?
So, in general, it's, studying criminal behavior, studying environmental factors of crime. Also, statistical data has a lot to do with a criminologist. Identifying crime patterns, also conducting surveys and interviews, formulating policy recommendations for people of power. Also, writing research papers and articles on specific criminal justice topics. So, I've written two during my graduate school. Also, you're working with law enforcement to study and reduce crime. That's the overall goal. You're studying and improving the effectiveness of criminal rehabilitation. Now, this doesn't mean that it happens in Alabama, of course, because I've had to actually go out of state and work with different states. So, like South Carolina is one that I've currently been working with. So it's kind of discouraging that, the state of Alabama doesn't want criminologists' help whenever they study these kind of behavior, how to improve criminal rehabilitation. Also, just forming like policy recommendations in general. So it's kind of discouraging that I can't work in my own state and I have to travel to South Carolina just to be able to work in prison.
Yeah.
Well, when you said that, it made me think of me and Jeanette. We just recently did a show about the lawsuit that's going on and the prisoners filed against Alabama Department of Corrections, and how the governor and various other different so-called public servants, I say so-called because they're acting like masters of the public, not public servants, are going against research that is about making people better, making people not go to prison, keeping people out. So when you said that, that immediately came to my mind how we read about the intense effort, concentrated effort to get rid of the input of people like yourself. And I want to say, don't be discouraged, because I'm not going to say that. You have the right to feel what you feel. If you have your feelings, you got to deal with them and process them, but process those feelings. But sometimes you have to go and above and beyond where you at, where you located, in order to make a greater impact. And sometimes you will shame people to action with the work that you do in other spheres. So always remember that people like you are needed, and you can bring them to their knees. And Jeanette, please forgive me. I was supposed to say this number 2, but everything happens for a reason, because she just led this. She just led me right back to this.
You never listen.
And it says, the question is supposed to be, which I will now present: do you feel that your career path is in line with your work to reform the prison system?
So, yes. So, criminal justice in general, it takes a broader approach that goes beyond just law enforcement. And I think that's where people get messed up. They just think law enforcement when they go criminal justice.
Yeah.
But overall, the goal is to address societal concerns that affects criminal behavior and public safety. So, like, deterrence tends to play a significant role, as does support for the victims of crime. Also, as a criminologist, my job is to study crime in order to reduce it. So criminologists study like why people commit crime, how like social factors contribute to criminal activity, along with how environment features, just like a building or city layouts, impact crime. Also, criminologists, they contribute to the correctional system by creating these new programs to rehabilitate incarcerated people and help them transition back into society successfully. These methods help reduce like the number of repeated offenders and break that cycle of incarceration. But however, like Alabama's prisons, like I was bringing up before, they will not allow criminologists within their facilities due to safety concerns, is what they say. Also, if the state of Alabama, ever decided they wanted help, it would be not like they would not, like the universities, they would not like charge them for their services or anything, because like personally, I know like several university professors and even students that would love to implement like programs and give policy recommendations to help better the lives of incarcerated people. Um, Also, many professors, like I was saying before, they have to travel to different states, such as like South Carolina, Wyoming, and many more, just to be able, you know, to help incarcerated people. I also wanted to provide another good example of a great prison system in the United States. So that state would be North Dakota. So they take a Norwegian approach to help improve their prison systems. So their main focus is creating a good neighbor. So they don't mention punishment, retribution. They focus strictly on rehabilitation versus punishment. Also, instead of calling people inmates at their facilities, they use a more respectful term, which is incarcerated people. A lot of people don't understand, but that's kind of like a stereotype and you're labeling somebody.
Right.
And I think many people in the United States in general, not just Alabama, they try to label and put a label on somebody. And I think that is wrong in many ways, but I just wanted
Absolutely.
to throw out that because, like, you know, we put a label on people that are trafficked. You know, we call them illegals or we call them different things. And it's
Yeah.
not right to put a label on somebody when really, you know, it's just a different kind of crime, but you're labeling them as a specific name. And that's what the United States does. They try to label.
Yeah. They put everybody into a category. And it's interesting because, especially in the time that we live in now, so many people with their identities and, this is who I am and I want to be called this and all of that, whatever. But yet people can't have respect for, the lowly people. They can't have a little respect and just call them an incarcerate. They have to call them a prisoner, a criminal. Like, it's demeaning. If you want to be called what you want to be called, you should have the same respect. And I think that Alabama, we know Alabama, and they're just too prideful to have a criminologist come in there, like you said, because they don't care about rehabilitation. They care about bringing more
Money.
people in. Yeah, money, all the money. Just bringing them in. So yeah, I don't know. I hope that Omar's right. I hope that it gets to the point where they're shamed, you know, for their behavior. And
Well,
one
they
question
definitely,
sorry, go ahead.
I believe they definitely will be shamed for what they have done to all of these families. There's several people I know, and of course you all know, that have, gained mental health problems because their loved one's incarcerated and they're worried about them. So they should be ashamed of what what they have led to,
Right.
and it's a hopeless prison environment, and that's really what it is. It's just they ain't got no hope, and when you ain't got no hope, it's like, what's the point, And that's
Right.
how many of them feel. And could
Exactly.
you blame them?
They
I
don't want to
couldn't.
feel anything, so they resort to drugs and whatever. A good friend of mine that I advocate for, he's actually trying to help the facility that he's in bring back hobby craft, I guess, like arts and crafts. So it's something that the men can channel into. Hopefully it'll pique their interest. That's what I'm hoping. I hope it's not too late for some to actually want to get up and try something new, but it would definitely be beneficial, I think,
Yeah.
for an individual that is at that point where they feel hopeless because they can express themselves at
Well,
least in that way.
That's what I was going to get to. Like having a way to express your feelings, and whether it's anger, sadness, whatever, you can do that through art, music, whatever you like. But also, it's also something for them to do to occupy their time positively versus,
Exactly.
like you said, going to drugs, or because that's a negative form of coping. Whereas somebody like the person you're talking about, they want to be more effective and,
Yeah,
do something with their time to rehabilitate themselves. That's what corrections is for, is to rehabilitate and correct, not
exactly.
punish and
Right.
keep holding them down on these people.
And they have a very skewed like definition of what corrections is and what punishment is. It's like very, very extreme. I feel like people that work in prisons, they feel like it's their job to punish the men and women incarcerated, and it's not. The punishment is being incarcerated. Like that's the punishment, being away from society, not having your family, not having the luxuries of flat screen TVs and computers, and you know what I mean. That is your punishment, is being cut off from society and having the bare minimum. It is
Yeah.
not being medically neglected or physically abused or extorted. um, and so yeah, and it happens in so people don't even realize it happens in so many prisons and they have no idea. A
Yeah.
friend of mine, I wanted to get your opinion on this. A friend of mine and I were talking, and we were talking about you know reformation, becoming rehabilitated, reformed, and her opinion is that the prisons owe the incarcerates nothing, and they shouldn't have to have programs or anything in order to become rehabilitated. They should be able to just rehabilitate themselves if they actually want to. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well,
I don't know. I didn't even know how to respond to that. I'm like, that's such a strange, I don't know. It's
I'm
the
gonna be
department.
honest with you.
Yeah.
I think that's a narrow way of thinking, and
Yeah.
we got those people that stereotype like that, and you're gonna have that in any topic you talk about, whether it's prison, people coming into the United States, different topics. But overall, I think that's a very narrow way of thinking
Right.
because obviously these people, they have experienced, you know, you know, either childhood abuse, poverty, we know like what leads people to crime. We as a society know. So it's like, obviously these things happen and trauma and different things have happened in their life that has impacted them to commit crime or gave them a pathway to crime.
Exactly.
So I think that's a narrow way of thinking is what I would say. And
Yeah.
for somebody to say that you can't automatically just say you can rehabilitate yourself.
I
Some
know.
people need a little help and encouragement um, along the way. Like if
Right.
you have a
Because
drug addiction, you know,
yeah,
you got to have help. You can't just automatically get out of it, you know?
exactly. I know. I'm like, it's not always that easy, like some people are so they suffer from, deep depression. And if you've suffered with depression, sometimes you just can't get up. You need somebody to help you, it really, it took me off guard. I was like, wow. But there's a lot of people that think like that, I guess. So I think,
Oh, yeah.
one of one of the things as well for you as a criminologist is, would you say, helping to change the way society views the incarcerated? Is that
Well, I think what you're meaning is like express that a little more, elaborate.
um just how society sees people that commit crime? They basically, essentially, they usually think that, everybody in there is guilty. Wrongful convictions are not real. They think that everybody is Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yeah.
they think that you get whatever you deserve for what you did. Many people are into capital punishment and think that, it's tit for tat. Just all of those things, all of those really negative views without fully understanding like we do.
Well, the thing about it is they probably have not been impacted by the incarceration of a loved one, so it's hard for them to relate. They haven't been impacted by the system. Um, I know several people like it's their way or the highway or
Yeah.
eye for an eye. You got those people, but I believe it's more important, you know, to help these people get the knowledge that like all of us have, that are impacted. Um, but it's not, you kind of have to have hard discussions with those people to make them see maybe from your perspective. And
Right.
sometimes you'll argue, and sometimes you're like, is it worth having that kind of
Right.
argument?
And it's not
But
probably not going to be one discussion unless it's a really, really long one and you both have patience to
and y'all
endure it.
probably butt heads a little bit, but
Right. But that, I mean, it
it's
is
hard.
important. Yeah.
It's
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 hard,
hard
but
to see.
yes, it is. It is because, like, I'll be, at a doctor's appointment or something, and someone's watching the news about something and saying bad stuff about the person, and I'm just like, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Like you don't know the full case.
So
You
anyway,
don't know all the evidence.
yeah. Back to the questions. I'm sorry, I was on a tantrum. It's you, Omar. You got a question?
Well, as I was listening, I was thinking about what you were saying, and really thank you for your work again. I like the fact that it kind of went off script because it's going deep into the heart of what you're doing and what people need to hear, what they need to focus on. I wanted to say, please tell me about your work with Jeanette. I understand that you have a manual on prisoners' rights. Please tell me about that and how that come about and what is it for?
Well, overall, I've had some problems with my brother in prison. He was medically neglected um, by the state of Alabama, um, and I just know like how that felt. And you know, at first I had a hard time navigating the prison system. Like Who do I contact, to report this information? And, that kind of is what led me to the formation of this guide for incarcerated loved ones. Because I'm like, if I'm having trouble, you know, I know other people probably are too.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of different types of guides out there, of course, but you have to kind of dig, and it's kind of hard to do if you don't know what you're looking for exactly. Um, so the overall goal of this guide is just to make it more easier. Uh, it's like a resource for incarcerated loved ones to be able to find what they need. Like, for example, we're going to have a section on medical neglect. Okay, well, if your family member is experiencing medical neglect, you go to that section right there, and it's like all the information you need to know, step by step, how to do it. Um, and I feel like, you know, due to like creating this guide, I also asked on Facebook, I was like, hey, what are some things you wish you would have known before, getting involved in the prison system? Like, so many people don't know how to communicate with correctional officers or, staff members in general. Also, I just think that's overall like the importance of the guide is just having that resource firsthand in one spot. You can look for what exactly you're going through, and you have recommendations and different things to help benefit.
That's beautiful. And I want to ask this, Jeanette, do you want to keep rolling? Because we at the 26-minute mark. Do you want to stop and do a part 2? Or you want to keep rolling? I think we can. The way this is flowing is so good, but maybe we can chop it up, do part 1 and part 2.
You want to chop it up? What do you want to do, Abby?
That's fine with me.
I'll obviously edit this part out.
Yeah, I think we need to go ahead and do a part 2 if she can stay for us and ask the rest of the questions, because it's getting like going into like 30 minutes now.
Okay, so you want to stay and finish, and it'll just be I'll do part 1 and part 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just gonna keep on going, or should I?
I think you send a link over again.
Huh?
Do you send the links to us again?
Yeah, I think that's best, because I won't be able to cut out like the middle of the video. You know what I mean? So I have to have a whole nother. Okay, so I'm gonna shut this down, and I'll send you guys the link again, and we'll start with the other half of the question. Okay. All right.